What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. What is going on, everybody? How are we doing? Hopefully everyone's having a great day out there in the real world. I have not done a podcast in a couple days. I was in Lake Tahoe for the Memorial Day weekend, hanging out with some family. My brother-in-law just had a baby, so we went to meet her and hung out, had some cocktails, played around of golf, and just kind of kicked it. So it was nice and refreshing. Longest I've gone without doing a podcast, honestly, in a long, long time. So it's a little weird. We got to get back on the saddle here. I have not spoke since Jim Irsay, the Colts owner, died last week. So some thoughts on that. Most of the teams, I think 27 out of the 32 started their OTAs, meaning coaches could be with them on the field and they can 11 on 11. I mean, it's shorts and t-shirts, but I mean, the start of the on the field with the coaches today. So we got a lot of news. I think the other 5 teams start on Wednesday if you're watching this probably today. So basically by the end of the week, everyone will be together. A lot of news and notes coming out of that. And then a couple college football things I wanted to hit on. And then just a couple things actually from this weekend that I want to touch on that were pretty cool. But before we dive into some football stuff, I got to tell you about my friends, my partners, in the official ticketing app of this podcast. Listen, do you want to go to a game? Do you want to go to an event? Do you want to have a good time? What do you want to do? You want to go to a baseball game this summer? Do you want to go get your football tickets for this fall right now? Do you want to go to a concert and hang out, comedy show, you name it, they got you covered. Game Time, best ticketing app by far. Anything you need, event, the arena, the team, you can search by it all. You can search by price point. It doesn't get any easier to use. They have hot flash deals, and on top of the deal that we get you, it's impossible to beat. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code JOHN, that's JOHN, for $20 off for your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code JOHN, JOHN, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price is guaranteed. Okay, I wanted to start with Jim Irsay, who passed away last week at 65 years old. Obviously, when you looked at him, I was honestly blown away that he was that young. I mean, 65 is not old in 2025. I think, had been really struggling. There were some pictures, not this owners' meetings, but a previous one with him on a wheelchair. He'd clearly been pretty sick over recent times, and his daughters have taken over the team. But I can't speak to him as an individual. I never met the guy, but I do think he represented a group of people that just aren't going to be around very soon in the near future. And you could argue they're not really around anymore. We have a couple, really, we just have one big personality left. And whenever Jerry goes, there is going to be an identity in the NFL that I just going to be missing. Now, maybe it won't matter because the league is so popular, but you guys know where I stand. When it comes to professional sports, first and foremost, it's an entertainment product, and it's become reality television. And for most of my life, especially when I was growing up, owners were massive characters in the reality show that was pro sports. And, if you grew up Eddie DeBartolo, Al Davis, I'd say the biggest one of my lifetime was George Steinbrenner owning the Yankees. And these guys were just massive personalities. They were as famous as the coach, as the GM. Sometimes they were the GM, and as equals to the players. And they let you be known. They basically did what Jerry Jones does. Gives his opinion on anything at all times, not afraid, 0 F's given, 24/7, 365. But in 2025, with the evaluations of these teams, think about some of the big personalities we have in the NFL now. You don't really hear from them. It's like the Browns doing crazy shit with Jimmy Haslam. I never hear him talk. I never hear him say a peep. I mean, honestly, if I had to guess how many times he addresses the media a year, I'd say it's under 3. David Tepper, who has led a pretty crazy first several years as the owner of the Panthers, firing people left and right, crazy articles coming out about him all the time. If I want to hear David Tepper talk, I am more likely to watch him on CNBC than I am to see him do a sit down with like Adam Schefter. Like those days are done. These guys don't speak. You know why? Because there's too much on the line. It doesn't even behoove them to say a peep. Jerry Jones is a complete outlier. And to me, Jim Irsay and Pat McAfee gave a good kind of a good talk on Friday about the impact that Irsay had on him and how when Pat first got on Twitter, how Irsay was so intrigued and he got on. And it's just like, we don't really get that anymore. And that makes me sad. Also, some reading, I didn't know that much about him, that he became the general manager of the team at 24 years old. There really was something special about pro sports in like the 70s and the 80s. It was nowhere near the business vehicle that it was now. Can you imagine if in the NFL, an owner just made his son the GM at 24 years old? Even if behind the scenes, some of this stuff is kind of going on. Kids have a lot of pull. Kids impact their father and tell them who to draft. The kid has a huge influence on the coach and the GM. I'm sure it happens. You would be naive to think it doesn't. But none of these owners are just be like, yeah, my son is going to be the GM of the team. And that's what happened with Jim Irsay in the early 80s. And that there was just something, kind of chaotic, but also very, very interesting. Now, luckily, I think because we have so many young GMs and the money's so big that we get way more transactions and crazy trades that has kind of been an additive to the sport. But the day and age of Al Davis getting in front of the media with an overhead projector, reading him the letter that he sent Lane Kiffin, why he fired him for cause, are just done. Like, we don't get that anymore. And I think Jim Irsay was kind of viewed as a crazy character. Obviously, he did a lot of good things behind the scenes in terms of giving back, and that's been well documented over the last 4 or 5 years. But when you just said the words Jim Irsay to me, I thought like big personality. And a guy who, when he really had his fastball, didn't give a shit and just wasn't afraid to just say what was on his mind, right or wrong. And you don't have to agree with everything that he did over the years when it came to his football team if you're a Colts fan. But at least you appreciate it. Like, he wasn't scared. It didn't ever felt like he was really hiding. Maybe it felt like that over the last couple of years as he got, I would say, old fast. But I think we just miss these type guys that were part of a league. And I read a good article. Like, this guy came up with his dad in a league that does not parallel what we are going through right now with salary cap of almost $300 million with these crazy television deals. Like, these owners did not have close to the money and definitely not the revenue streams back in the day. And that led to them, I think, not really giving a shit. And I'm going to miss that. I'm a sucker for that. Like Jerry Jones, who knows how much longer we have of him. Now, you could argue he's a little overkill because he talks so much, but at least he's willing to say some shit, because most of these owners do not say a peep, no matter how crazy the stuff they do. So, I'll think of Jim Irsay. Listen, when Peyton Manning went there, I became a big Colts fan. I rooted for them. I really wanted them to beat the Patriots when I was in high school and in college, and they never could till finally that game in 2006. He does have to get credit because for a guy that became the GM, hired Bill Polian, who's a Hall of Fame GM, who obviously went on to draft Peyton Manning and build the team that was, in the 2000s, easily, I would say, the second best team of that decade. And if it wasn't for Belichick and Brady, who knows, maybe they have 3 or 4 rings during that time. But yeah, RIP to Jim Irsay. The NBA Finals are almost here, and every play could be one that changes everything. This is the NBA playoffs, where heroes rise, legacies are built, and the action never lets up. With DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, you don't just watch the madness, you live it. Back your favorite team, ride with your clutch time killer, bet on buzzer beaters, breakout performances, and game-winning threes. From player props to same-game parlays, this is how you take your fandom to the next level. Here's what I know. I love the T-Wolves. You can get them, lines are subject to change, on DraftKings right now at plus 265 to win the series. They have experience, they have been here before, and obviously they just have a really good team who's really hot right now. If you like them to win the series, I don't hate them then to win the NBA championship at plus 550. New to the game, no sweat. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today, bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll score $300 in bonus bets. It's that easy. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code JOHN. That's code JOHN for new customers to get $300 in bonus bets if your bets wins and you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. Crown is yours. Some NFL news and notes from the day. A lot of stuff going on. Like some stuff, not that crazy. Joey Bosa, injured. Shocker. Didn't see that one coming. Now, the reality with the Bills, he has a calf injury. He's not going to participate this offseason. Should be ready for training camp. Is the offseason training camp, you could argue even early in the season, doesn't matter for Joey Bosa at all. The Bills signed Joey Bosa for November, December in the playoffs. Now, can he stay healthy? I would say being injured in OTAs is not ideal, but this is part of, the package when you sign Joey. I think they're going to have to treat him with kid gloves and really just try to keep him healthy for the games. Because that's why they signed him, to get some sacks down the stretch and make plays in some big games in December in the playoffs. Speaking of the Bills, James Cook, absent. He sees these running backs getting a lot of money. He's a really good player. I would say he's changed the identity of the Bills these last couple years. I would imagine that the front office with the Bills isn't like very comfortable giving a running back $40-50 million guaranteed, but I would imagine James Cook's going to want $17-18 million a year, and I don't know, at minimum $40 million guaranteed. So it's going to be interesting how this shakes out. Probably be a staring contest for a while. Off season for a guy that knows your scheme, whatever. But like come training camp, you've seen this before. You want a guy, especially at running back, the reps being in the mode. Like you don't want him just to show up week one, have not practiced with you. So it's going to be interesting to watch how that shakes out. Couple things with the Falcons. I think Cousins was there earlier during some of the early phases working out. Now that they're actually doing more football-related activities, Raheem Morris said he did not see Cousins today, a.k.a. he's not there. And this was kind of reported that if he was still on the team during OTAs that he wasn't going to be around. Like, totally understand it. Don't even think it's that weird. I think they're kind of in a staring contest. Who really needs him? At this point in time, I don't think the Browns are going to trade for him. If we assume that Aaron Rodgers one day, maybe this year in the near future, will sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers, they won't trade for him. So what is the Cousins market? If I was going to sit here on May 27th and guess what happens, I think the Falcons are just going to play this into training camp and hope that someone gets injured and they can make a trade. But right now, I don't really know if there's a lot of destinations for him to go. I always hesitate with these because it's just day one. Maybe a report comes out. But as of the day, there was a report that Kyle Pitts did not show up. And the way that it was reported, it's not like, something's going on in his personal life. It's that he's not that comfortable playing on the fifth-year option for almost $11 million. If that is the case, that's fucking insane. The guy caught 47 balls and 600 yards and 4 touchdowns last year. Like, I don't know if that's really the year to try to have like a hardcore negotiation, especially when you're on the books for almost $11 million, which seems more than fair given your production. And I think he's a guy that a lot of people have argued, like, what's going on? Sometimes maybe he's just not that good. Or maybe he is just such a unique player, he can only do one thing, and the Falcons have never been able to maximize that, and he's destined to fall in, to another team. But even if they were to trade him over the next couple months before the start of the season, I have a hard time seeing any team giving him a contract extension. So, hey, it's 2025, player empowerment. If you think off 47 catches, you're getting screwed at $10.8 million, I don't know what to tell you. I love this line from Todd Bowles. Now, listen, like, you get in business with certain people. If you get in business with someone that your entire town tells you, man, this guy's shady, bro, be very, very careful. I would recommend you not do business with this guy. And then that guy screws you financially, you only have yourself to blame, right? If every one of your friends is like, man, I'm not one to tell you about your relationship, but I think he's not right for you. And then you get into a bad breakup, like it's kind of on you. I get Hasson Reddick has some talent and some speed coming off the edge. And in the business of football, that position and that skill is valued highly. I totally get it. I think he's a talented player. I do think the last year's been a little weird. Like when the Eagles are like, yeah, we're out. And then the Jets are like, what the fuck's going on? And then it takes the general manager getting fired and the owner being terrified that, his season was going to be lost. It ended up being lost, and giving the guy a raise to get him just to show up. Like, I'm sorry, it's a bizarre situation. Jason Light gives him $14 million off what happened. It's like, okay, bud, time to play. And if you're Hasson Reddick and everything that happened, and you've willingly signed this contract, you'd think, I get it's voluntary. And voluntary means I can't force you to do anything. It's got to be on you. But based on the perception and everything that's gone on, you think he'd show up? Todd Bowles had an incredible line. I didn't see it. I just read it, so I can only imagine in his kind of like relaxed tone. I'm sure we'll see him one of these days. I mean, that's a direct shot. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Of all the people, like, hey, Levante David, he's doing his own thing for a couple more weeks. Totally get Vita Vea hanging out with fam in Hawaii. Cool. Mike Evans is in the, some Italian villa, still vacationing. Totally cool. Hell, Baker Mayfield still hanging out in Austin with his wife and his family. I can live with that. This guy, I just gave you $14 million after everything that happened, and you just don't show up? Again, this is Tampa. We're not in Antarctica here. It's not the worst place to be. The thing I don't understand about stuff like this, these practices now in 2025 have never been easier. It's basically like a solid cardio workout. You're on the field at most a couple days a week for about an hour and a half. You are doing some film study, and if you're a defensive end, what are you really implementing in terms of a scheme? Like, I'm either playing the run here or getting up the field. Obviously, it's more complicated than that, but this is not a strenuous time for players. It's an incredible time for players. Just kind of hanging, chilling, getting free breakfast, free food, hanging out with your teammates, on the field a little bit, getting a sweat. You're working out what you'd be doing anyway. It is very, very relaxed. Not a great look for the player. I mean, what? Kind of embarrassing, to be honest with you. If I'm Jason Light, I'm not happy today. Like, come on, man. Very excited to tell you about my next partners, someone and something that hits home with me. My dad's brother was killed in Vietnam, and I saw the impact that it had not only on his parents, but on my father my entire life. Because there are moments when you get to make a real difference, and this is one of them. I want to tell you about Folds of Honor. They provide educational scholarships to spouses and children of fallen or disabled military members and first responders. Think about that for a second. Families who've lost everything or rebuilding their lives, and this organization steps in to make sure their kids can still go to college, or a spouse can get the training they need to keep moving forward. Since 2007, they've awarded nearly 62,000 scholarships. Last year, about 7,000 qualified students didn't receive funding, and this year, that number is expected to grow to nearly 10,000. So if you've been looking for a way to give back, to do something meaningful, this is it. Go to foldsofhonor.org. Give what you can. It all matters. Let's honor their sacrifice, educate their legacy, and unite around all those who serve. Jake Moody, who Jim Harbaugh once said, death, taxes, and Moody. Turns out the 49ers have not gotten that sort of guarantees, because Jake Moody's been, I would say, pretty bad for them. It came out that he has changed his motion, and he's going to, it's like off the tee. You're like, I'm not going to swing as hard. I just want to hit the fairway. He has changed his motion to try to be more accurate. I'm sorry. I don't pretend to be a kicking or punting specialist, but if you have to change your motion a couple years into your career when you were a quote unquote blue chip kicker from Michigan who was drafted in the third round, I think we have to kind of acknowledge this is a disaster. And I am always supportive. If you take a kicker or a punter, second round's a little high, but I'd even say at the end of the third round, the comp picks, which the Niners used, pick in the hundreds. Obviously, the fourth, fifth round, it's not an ideal situation because we have a long history of finding guys as undrafted free agents. But if I draft a guy in the third or the fourth round and he's my starting kicker, if I end up drafting Butker or whoever the best punter is and he's on my team for a decade, it's a fantastic pick. Think how often at the end of the third round or the fourth round, you take some guard or linebacker that never plays a snap for you. So I defend people taking kickers or punters, but they better be the guy. And they better go on to be a starting player for you and get a second contract. So I would say all signs point to this being a disaster. And this is where people argue against taking these kickers and these punters because it's like the hit rate on drafting guys is no different than just finding them on the street. And how often do you see guys that are drafted that get cut, that go somewhere else, and then play for a long time? Hell, is the Cowboys kicker who didn't even play in college, who's a soccer player, went to the UFL. Now he's, I don't know statistically where he ended up. I don't have my kicker breakdown readily available, but like, it's a good player. Meanwhile, using a third round pick on this guy from Michigan who, by all accounts on paper, this guy, it's going to work. 2 years in, you're like, this is a problem. One thing where players can get some leverage is after the draft. You know, I assumed, and again, I'm guilty of just, it felt like all the wind and all the buzz was like, the Packers are going to trade Jaire Alexander. Ever since that moment, now he's been injured off and on, but when he went out, he's from Carolina. They were playing the Panthers a couple years ago, and he just made himself the captain. He ended up getting suspended. Kind of, I think pretty funny move. But it just felt like breakup, time to. And then all of a sudden, the Packers look around their depth chart after the draft, like, we don't really have any DBs. And now they offer him like a rework contract. And all reports are Jaire Alexander is going to show back up. So it shows you can mend fences by just having your team realize that we kind of need this guy. And now Jaire Alexander has some leverage. Like, you still want me? You still need me? I'm looking at your room. You kind of do. And I would say at this point in time, I would imagine that he's going to end up on the team. Couple quick things in college football. Last year, a very controversial moment in the playoffs was that some of the teams that won their conference were going to get buys. And it turned out that Boise State and Arizona State got first round buys. And people thought that was kind of crazy. It's like you're telling me that Boise State, who I have a lot of respect for the program, is better than like Ohio State and Texas. Come on. Georgia, we all know that's not true. And they announced, which we saw coming, which is the nice part about this playoffs, is that you can change at a moment's notice. And now they are going to just seed it 1 through 12, which it was clear when listen, Arizona State almost pulled a miraculous upset against Texas, but if anything, they shouldn't have been the higher seed in the tournament. And I think that will get taken care of. I still think there are going to be some controversies with who gets in, who doesn't get in, but that's going to happen with any sort of playoff bracket where a committee is picking the team. But this was an easy decision, especially based on the information we had last year. Another topic which has come up now twice over the last 6 months is USC trying to get out of a game. And last year, when they tried to get out of the LSU game, I thought it was pretty embarrassing because the game had been set for a while. It's your classic non-conference. It was not even at SC or at LSU. It was in Vegas. Lincoln Riley tried to get out. Brian Kelly refused to pull out, and it turned out USC ended up winning the game anyway. But I hated that for USC. I just thought it was a bad look, especially for Lincoln. And it's kind of materialized once the season started. It's like, God, don't be a pussy. Well, USC clearly wants out of this Notre Dame rivalry. And here is something where I do kind of support this. USC goes, we're in the Big Ten. And depending on the year, we might be playing Oregon, we might be playing Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, who knows? Like we have a set group of teams. And if the conference has a good couple years, our schedule is going to be really, really difficult. On top of having to travel really far, even though we created this, but hey, we are in the Big Ten. Meanwhile, Notre Dame is the last of a dying breed. They're this just independent team that can do whatever they want. Now, unlike last year, where, let's face it, their schedule was a joke, their schedule was an embarrassment. This year, their schedule is not bad. I think they open up in Miami. Obviously, they play SC, they play Boise, they play Texas A&M. Like their schedule is pretty hard. They go on the road a couple times to like Power Four teams. Their schedule is way more difficult this year than last year. But it varies year to year because it's like, oh, they got Navy, they got Army, which I have a lot of respect for those programs, but we saw what they did to them last year. It was a bloodbath. And like going on the road to Wisconsin or to Iowa, if that's like my easy game if I'm SC, like I do kind of get it. And this is where I think we need to head. So we have to stop having these arguments. Like I'm just so tired of reading this team wants out, this team doesn't. How about we do this? And this is where I think it's inevitably going to happen. Who knows how much longer? Can we all just be under the same umbrella? Can we all just be under the same rules and regulations? Because so many teams, like the reason Lincoln Riley wants out of the LSU game, because like, why do I need to play that game? I'm already in a real conference where if I'm like Indiana and I have an easy schedule and I win 10, 11 games, I'm going to get a playoff berth. So the college football to get to the seeding part, I saw a lot of people yesterday. Like, I bet there are still people that believe that Alabama should have got in over Indiana. Like, yeah, maybe it should have been some other team, but here's what I know: a one-loss Indiana team. Just if you are in the Big Ten, but your schedule's no different than like Notre Dame, that schedule was a joke. There has to be some sort of uniformity, and right now there just isn't any. So while I did not support USC wanting out of the LSU game, I thought that was an awful look and just a pansy way to try to crawl out of playing a real opponent. This is a historic rivalry. But given the changing landscape of college football and given that Notre Dame, like, let's face it, it makes a lot of sense for Notre Dame to join the Big Ten in terms of football. Now, in terms of money, the NBC deal, totally get it. But I understand USC going, like, it benefits you more than it benefits us. And this is the problem in the world we're in with all this consolidation and conference realignment. So don't get me wrong. I would love if Notre Dame and USC just played together or played each other forever. But like based on the rules and where we're at, like that's might not be that likely anymore. So I think the whole thing is kind of bullshit with some of these teams playing these random like D1 double A's. I want that to stop. And can't we just all play each other? But we're still a little far away from that. Couple other, I went to Tahoe this weekend. Uh, it was awesome. Just, I mean, I say it every year. If you ever have the opportunity to go to Lake Tahoe, if you're from the Northeast, if you're from the Midwest, if you're from the South, I cannot recommend it enough. You can fly into Reno or you can fly into Sac, a little longer drive, but it's got to be one of the most beautiful places on earth. I'm pretty spoiled. I grew up probably less than 2 hours away. I had one of my best friends was his dad was from there, and he did well in life and built a pad up there. And I went there a lot growing up, and I've gone back a lot because Maria's family goes up a lot, and her brother lives in Reno now. Her mom, a couple years ago, bought a little townhouse right by the water, which is really cool. But just a beautiful place. I want to say two things really quick. It is remarkable what technology has done. I'm sure a lot of you listening have used this app. Like most people, most of my life, if my adult life, if you need, and I did this a lot when I was in scouting, like you need to rent a car. So you go through Avis, you go through Hertz, and it can be kind of a pain in the ass. Then they created this thing called Turo. And I remember a couple years ago using it for the first time on like a guy's trip. This might have been like 4 years ago. And I asked my buddy Brian, I'm like, where did you get this car? He's like, bro, it's just an app. It's called Turo. And they just deliver it to you at the airport. You're like, wait, you don't need to wait in line or anything? No, you just walk out and it's usually sitting there in the parking lot and they either can manually open or like I did this weekend with a Tesla, the dude I just press a button and boom, we're off and running. And it's so easy to talk shit about technology and it drives us crazy. And I want to spend less time on my phone. I think we all aspire to do that. But the power of if you are ever on a road trip and you have not used it yet, I cannot recommend Turo enough. Now, I would say over the course of the last several years, I've ridden in a lot of Ubers or Teslas for Uber. And whenever you get in the back, you're like, God, this is just a really, really clean car. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to rent from Turo a Tesla. And I got the Model Y. It's like the small little SUV. What's funny is like when you first, I've never driven one in my life. You first show up, it's unlike any car. If you've never driven an electric battery powered car, you got keys, you turn it on. I sat there for like 10 minutes YouTubing, like, how do I fucking start this thing? This is insane. What do I even do? And like most people that has never driven one, the brake, you don't need to hit the brake really. You just take the pedal when your foot comes off the pedal. It's got a name, I forget it off the top of my head, but it like automatically brakes and slows down or just stops. That doesn't come to a full stop, but I was blown away by how awesome the car was. And I think I'm gonna get one now. I'm just gonna buy one just to like have essentially be like a golf cart version of a car to drive around town here. It's like, well, why didn't I have like why am I paying for gas when I don't really drive that many places? We're gonna have a gas car for her and I can use whenever I need to if we need to go on a road trip. But it was an incredible experience. And the other thing is, and I'm not a huge car guy, but I have been in some fast cars over the years. Like, you know, I was in this twin charged turbo Corvette one time, probably the most powerful car I've ever been in, but just some other cars that haul ass. But an engine, it sucks in and then it fires out. These things, the moment you hit the pedal, they haul ass. It's like you're in a little spaceship. Anyone listening that drives Tesla's like, yeah, John. I mean, fucking, they've been around for a little while now. But it's like you're like in a spaceship in like a video game meets like a race car. It's crazy how fast they are. So had a really good time just mobbing around in the Tesla around Tahoe all weekend.